Hello, my name is John Stanton and I'm a senior lecturer in law at the City Law School at City University of London, and I'm delighted to be able to talk with you today about my new book, Law, Localism and the Constitution, A Comparative Perspective. This was published by Routledge in March 2023 as part of Routledge's Research in Constitutional Law series. I'd like to thank Giuseppe Martinico for giving me this opportunity to speak with you and for inviting me to talk about the book and about my motivations in writing it. My work on local government in the United Kingdom has often centred upon the relationship that local councils share with central government, centralised departments. In the UK's constitutional system, which is uncodified, considerable power is concentrated at the centre. This means that local government is constantly at the mercy of central government, centralised departments, which in turn impacts upon the extent to which it can wield any meaningful power, the extent to which it can exercise any meaningful autonomy, and the extent to which it can realise its democratic potential across the local areas in the United Kingdom. My mission, therefore, in writing this book was to identify ways in which this central heavy, this top-down approach to local government might be corrected, might be adjusted, and how as a consequence we might establish a system of local government that enjoys genuine power, genuine and autonomy, and that is therefore more capable, more able to realise its full democratic potential for the good of local areas. At the very heart of the book is empirical research which I undertook between 2018 and 2021. I questioned local councillors across the country about their work, about their concerns for local government, about some of the issues that they felt impacted upon the workings of local government. This empirical material then fed into the second part of the book, which enabled me to talk about some of the fundamental aspects of local government and the way in which local government's relationship with the centre impacts negatively on its workings, on its day-to-day operation. The book is split into three parts. The first part very much sets out the legal, the constitutional and the historical context for local government. Local government law in the UK is very much an understudied, underexplored area of the legal academy. And in this sense, it was my aim to describe and explain the way in which local government as we know it today has evolved and developed through the centuries, going as far back as the Anglo-Saxons, the emergence of the shire, the emergence of the county, of the parish. And I trace these institutions right up to the modern day, including and with a particular focus on the 19th century reforms which established modern local government as we would recognise it today. In this first part of the book, I also seek to provide the fundamental justification for local government. Whilst, as I've said, local government exists within a system that is very much top-down, it's central-heavy, but in this part of the book, in chapter 3, I seek to identify what I believe should be the main justification for local government, the principle of subsidiarity, the idea that power should be exercised at the most appropriate level. In this context, I argue that local government should be able to wield genuine power, genuine autonomy for the good of its local areas and not be too heavily prescribed and supervised by the centre, by centralised departments. The second part of the book, which focuses on this empirical research, discusses both internal and external structures of local government. So I discuss, for example, the way in which councils, some of which are organised by a cabinet model, others by a committee model, the way in which these differing models, these distinctions play out in terms of the day-to-day functioning of local government. In terms of external structures, I compare areas where there are 2, 3, even 4 layers of local government with those where there is just a single level of local government. This distinction very much is borne out in the way in which local people engage with their local councils and the way in which these councils fulfil their responsibilities and provide local services. Chapter 5 is the chapter that looks at local democracy. I discuss the different electoral models that are in place across the United Kingdom, whether that's first past the post or the single transferable vote, and I examine ways in which we might seek genuinely to make local government more democratic. Chapter 6, which is where I discuss local government finance, is a complicated chapter. Local government finance was consistently identified by the councillors that I surveyed as an area of great concern, at the very heart of local government's paucity of powers, lack of autonomy, is ultimately a lack of money. So I explore ways in chapter 6 as to how we might investigate and explore ways in which councils can draw from a greater budget, and the way in which they might raise more money for themselves rather than relying so heavily as they currently do on central government. Part 3 of the book is where I consider the possible reforms that might be introduced. Chapter 7 looks at the reforms on a sort of a slightly more detailed level, in the sense that I discuss there the ideal structures for local government, the ideal way of financing local government, the most appropriate democratic way of legitimising local government. And then chapter 8, which is really the culmination, the climax of the book, is where I tackle the fundamental question as to how we might adjust the local government constitutional position in the United Kingdom to achieve what is a genuinely bottom-up local emphasis to the system of local democracy, to the system of local government in the United Kingdom. I do this by examining ways in which councils, local government, might engage with the centre on a political level, perhaps through some form of political agreement. And then I think how this political agreement might then be bolstered, be protected by some form of legislative enactment. And then thirdly, I investigate ways in which incorporation of the European Charter of Local Self-Government might further protect a system of local government that is much more top-down. It's much more about the localities rather than what the centre prescribes and what the centre desires. So thank you very much for listening. This is it's been an interesting opportunity to write this book and to discuss ways in which local government might be improved. And thank you, Giuseppe Martinico, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.